European colonization. There were several causes for European colonization in the 14 and 1500s. First was a growth of trade, which led to the need for more natural resources and new markets to sell finished goods in. Second was the emergence of powerful nation-states in Europe, such as the Spanish, French, and the English, which led to competition for wealth between the countries. Third, there was improved technology, including new maps, the astrolabe, and better ships. Encouraged by rulers such as Prince Henry the Navigator, Portuguese explorers, men such as Bartholomew Dias, who was the first European to sail to the southern tip of Africa in 1487, and Vasco da Gama, who was the first European to sail all the way around Africa and reach India in 1497, helped build Portugal's trade empire in the late 1400s. To the left we have a picture of Prince Henry the Navigator, who started a school in Portugal to teach sailors the science of sailing and navigation. His support made Portugal an early leader in European action. To the right we have pictures of Bartholomew Dias and Vasco da Gama. Other explorers helped expand European knowledge of the world around them. For instance, Christopher Columbus, an Italian sailor who convinced Ferdinand and Isabella of Spain to finance an effort to sail to India by heading west instead of east. Columbus reached the Bahamas in the Caribbean in 1492. He wrongly believed he had reached the Indies, an archipelago of islands off the coast of India. Upon reaching the Bahamas, Columbus believed he had reached the East India Islands, and so called the natives Indians. The name has stuck, even though he was far, far from the Indies. He eventually made several voyages to the Caribbean islands, an area that today we often call the West Indies, over the course of the next decade. As the Spanish continued exploring to the west, they decided to split the world between themselves and the Portuguese. In 1493, Pope Alexander VI drew a line of demarcation down the middle of the Atlantic Ocean. Portugal got to claim everything to the east of that line, including the trade routes in Africa. Spain got to claim everything west of the line. So the line of demarcation divided the world between Spain and Portugal. Portugal, as mentioned, got to keep its control of the trade routes around Africa, while Spain ended up getting most of the then unknown to them New World in North and South America. An Italian cartographer or map maker named Amerigo Vespucci mapped the coastline of South America in 1499 and concluded, despite what Columbus had thought, that South and North America were separate continents from Asia. North and South America are named for Vespucci. Here we see Amerigo Vespucci's map of the coastline of North and South America. His map of the coastline is fairly accurate, even if he was not aware of the actual size of the two continents, seen here on the left-hand side of the map. A Portuguese explorer by the name of Ferdinand Magellan was hired by the Spanish to attempt to circumnavigate or sail all the way around the world in 1519. He left Spain with 200 men, but was killed in the Philippines in 1521. Eventually, 18 members. This map shows the route that Magellan and his crew took to circumnavigate the world. While the Spanish were exploring, they were searching for three things: for God, gold, and glory. They were looking to expand Catholicism, to find stores of gold wherever they went, and for personal glory. The individuals who were doing the exploration for Spain were called conquistadors, which is Spanish for conquerors. They were explorers sent by the Spanish government to explore and take over lands in the New World, which means North and South America. One of the most well-known conquistadors was a man named Hernán Cortés. Cortés arrived in Mexico in 1519, where he encountered and eventually conquered the Aztec peoples. Another famous conquistador was Francisco Pizarro. He encountered and conquered the Inca in Peru in 1532. Other conquistadors included Juan Ponce de Leon, the first conquistador to land on mainland North America, on the east coast of present-day Florida, in 1513. He was searching for the so-called Fountain of Youth, a fabled fountain that would grant whoever drank from it eternal youth. He searched for the Fountain of Youth across present-day Florida for years, chasing after stories told to him by the Native Americans. Native Americans frequently attempted to divert the conquistadors' attention with stories of things such as the Fountain of Youth or the 7 cities of Cibola, fabled cities made of gold and precious jewels. Explorers such as Hernando de Soto and Francisco Vasquez de Coronado spent years wandering the American Southwest searching for these fictional cities. The 7 cities of Cibola, or the 7 cities of gold as they were often called, were said to have streets paved in gold and walls made of emerald. They were clearly stories made up by the Native Americans to send the gold-hungry Spanish conquistadors off on a wild goose chase. Within just a few short decades, Spain managed to conquer most of North and South America. There were 4 reasons for the Spanish success in the New World. First, the Spanish had access to advanced weapons, guns and cannons, that the Native Americans simply did not have. Second, the Spanish had horses, allowing them to travel much more quickly than the Native Americans. Third, the Spanish formed alliances with other tribes in the region, tribes that had long-standing conflicts with the Aztecs or with the Incas. Finally, the Spanish had diseases such as smallpox that the natives had absolutely no protection against. While smallpox was a minor inconvenience to the Spanish, it was deadly to the natives. As the Spanish built their colonies, they established 3 types of settlements. There were pueblos, which were towns designed for trade. Missions, which were churches and forts built for religious instruction and protection. And presidios, which were forts designed for military protection. There were 3 different groups of people in the Spanish colonies. There were peninsulars, who were the upper class in the Spanish colonies. These were individuals who actually came from Spain, from the Iberian Peninsula. Below the peninsulars were creoles. These were people born in the colonies with 2 Spanish parents. Finally, there were mestizos, people born in the colonies to parents who were Spanish and native. The Spanish practiced something called encomienda, which essentially was using Native Americans as slave labor in their colonies. Encomienda was used on plantations, massive farms, where the Native Americans were a source of cheap labor. One Spanish priest, a man by the name of Bartolomé de las Casas, attempted to end encomienda by showing that it was unfair to natives. The Spanish started using slaves from Africa instead of Native Americans as a result of this. Encomienda, a policy that gave the Spanish the right to demand taxes and labor from the Native Americans, essentially enslaved the natives. Bartolomé de las Casas asked for better treatment for the natives, which led the Spanish to enslave Africans instead. European countries competed for colonies and wealth in the New World. Many European countries practiced mercantilism, an economic theory that stated a country's wealth was based on colonies and control of natural resources. Colonies had to trade only with the country that started the colony. With Spain controlling most of North and South America, other European countries sought alternative ways to make exploration profitable. Many countries searched for something called the Northwest Passage. a fabled water route to Asia that went through the northernmost part of North America. Many explorers searched for the Northwest Passage over the years, but none were able to find it because it did not exist. For instance, an Italian explorer named John Cabot searched for the Northwest Passage for the English in 1497. In the process, he claimed Newfoundland, which is part of Canada today, for the English. Many people believed it would be possible to cut through the northernmost part of North America, up around the Arctic Circle, and reach Asia faster and more directly than having to go around the Americas or Africa. Unfortunately, the so-called Northwest Passage was impossible due to the ice. And you can see on the map, the dotted circle is the Arctic Circle, and the red line is the path that they would be able to take for the Northwest Passage. Unfortunately, it did not work. Other European explorers searched for the Northwest Passage as well. For example, Giovanni da Verrazzano, an Italian explorer, was hired by the French in 1524 to find the passage. He explored the east coast of North America from the Carolinas all the way to Nova Scotia. Another French explorer, a man by the name of Jacques Cartier, sailed up the St. Lawrence River in 1535, hoping to reach the Pacific Ocean. Instead, he discovered a Huron, which is a type of Native American, village near a mountain he named Mount Royal, now the city of Montreal. An English sailor, a man by the name of Henry Hudson, explored North America for the Dutch in 1609 and for the English in 1610. He is credited with discovering the Hudson River and the Hudson, which he thought was the Pacific Ocean. His crew eventually forced him off the ship and left him to die, cast adrift in a boat in the bay. As France and other European countries began getting involved in colonization efforts, they took a different approach to colonization than Spain. France did not attempt to conquer territory the way the Spanish did, but instead set up posts and worked with the natives to build the fur trade, which was tremendously profitable in Europe at the time. One French explorer, a man by the name of Samuel de Champlain, set up a settlement in what is now Canada called Quebec in 1608. There, he traded fur with the Native Americans. This map shows the routes taken by a variety of explorers throughout the 15 and 1600s as Europeans slowly began to discover the extent of North America. French fur trappers were often referred to as coureurs de bois, or runners of the woods. They worked closely with Native Americans, adopting Native American dress, attitudes, and even intermarrying with Native American women on many occasions. The French were not the only other European country to become involved in colonization efforts. The Netherlands set up a trade colony called New Netherland in 1621 in present-day New York, Pennsylvania, and Connecticut. The major settlement in the colony was called New Amsterdam.